Well, good morning, Morro Bay. Today is Thursday, May 18th, and I would like to call to order the monthly meeting of the Tourism Business Improvement District. For the record, the time is exactly 9 a.m. We're starting right on time, and we will establish a quorum of our board members present here today. Our very full board members present here today. This is exciting. From my far right, we have Maggie Jurin, Taylor Newton, Sean Green, Charlie Yates, Stephen Allen, and myself, Aaron Graves. And now we would like to open the microphone up to public comment. The public is welcome to comment on any items they wish. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Janice Peters, and I'm a resident of the Morro Bay, and also on the board of, yes, By the Sea Productions, which is our now local live theater company. We are so excited to be here. We did our first show on Golden Pond in February, and we actually were sold out our last weekend. Yes. We are working out of St. Peter's by the Sea Episcopal Church, and they have been in their parish hall. We actually construct a stage and everything. They've been extremely welcoming and supportive, and we appreciate that so much. We had some issues with the Planning Commission to make sure that we didn't bother the neighbors, and we added those specifics to our permit, and we have a parking monitor who helps with parking so that the neighbors aren't impacted by that. And it's all working out very well, I'm very happy to say. Our next show is coming up Memorial Day weekend. We do distribute these to all the hotels and motels. If you haven't got them yet, they're coming out this week. I took a bunch around this weekend. And this one is a reader's theater, which means we don't have an elaborate set or props or anything. But it's an extremely timely piece. It's called Seven. It was written about 7 real women who are still active, all but one, in women's rights around the world. It highlights experiences in 7 different countries: Guatemala, Cambodia, Russia, Northern Ireland, Pakistan. Oh, I'm not going to get them all. Anyway, 7 countries, and these women overcame incredible experiences to come back and empower other women, to educate other women, to help other women, not only in their country but throughout the world. So it's a very timely piece and very provocative and very uplifting, and I do encourage you all to come. Tickets are only $10, and it's Memorial Day weekend. We have shows on Friday and Saturday evening at 7, and then Sunday there's a matinee at 3. So I do suggest reservations. I've been publicizing a lot, so I'm hoping that we will get a full house for those shows. I also gave you the program for the rest of our season. Our Father's Day weekend show is going to be about love, marriage, and all those fun things. It's going to be a very lighthearted piece to contrast with our current one, and that will be on Father's Day weekend. And then our next full show is And Then There Were None, the Agatha Christie classic 10 Little Indians, which is all spooky wonderful, and we all die on stage. So that's something to come see. I get to be one of the dead people. So, so I really hope that you will participate. Send if you are a hotel motel owner, tell your visitors about it, because we did last time get quite a few people who were in from out of town, and we deliberately set our shows on holiday weekends as much as we could to take advantage of that fact and give people something else to do after they've seen the show at the Bay. So please do encourage it. If you want more of these, please contact us at that number down there, and we'll be happy to get some more to you if you run out. Thank you very much. Yeah. Sorry.
I see a website on here, and
Yes.
Can people get tickets through that?
Yes.
Okay.
We do sell them at the door. We encourage the reservations so that we have an idea how many people are coming and
Okay.
how many chairs we need to put out, and also to guarantee with a good crowd that there is a seat left. So that's
Yeah.
why reservations are suggested.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. And
Any other questions?
I personally am very excited to have you guys in town. So.
Me too. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice. Is there any further public comment or plugs? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Robert Davis. I live in Morro Bay. And I just want to say how much I personally enjoyed the Amgen tour of California, and I thank Econi for coordinating the city's support And I thank all of our city support workers, Public Works, Recreation, all of the people who helped, and Jennifer, and Slow Cal for paying our share to bring the event here. It was a great event, and I think everyone I have talked to has said how much they enjoy it, and they'd like to see it come back again next year. So, just thanks.
Thank you, Red. And I know all of us enjoyed the event as well. All right. Do we have any further public comment? Seeing no further public comment, we will close that session. And a housekeeping note here, typically we would begin each of the meetings with meeting minutes from our prior. There were some technical difficulties and staffing issues in getting those minutes out. At our next meeting, we will have all the previous minutes. Board, I will encourage you all at that point to read through those, and we'll be looking for an approval. So we can clean that up then. Now, out of a courtesy here to one of our presenters who will be presenting on the fireworks sponsorship, he has limited time today, so he is the item number 6. We'd like to move him up to the 3rd item on the agenda, give him a chance to give his presentation. All right, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Board, for inviting me, Janice, or Jennifer. My name is Bill LaFay, resident of Morro Bay for 20 years. Also president of the Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Department. And I will say reluctantly, to a certain extent, I was asked to put on the fireworks for the city of Morro Bay. And why I say reluctantly, this is not really something that I'm passionate about or not passionate about. But what I am passionate about is the economic integrity of some of our leaseholders on the waterfront. They've approached the Harbor Department, and some of them were threatening to close 4th of July. They said no tourism is coming here, no visitors. If you Google fireworks, don't go to Morro Bay, go to Cayucos Pismo, period. So my job is to raise $18,000 to put on the fireworks. I come here before your board to ask for $10,000 donation to help that endeavor. We're going to have fireworks from 8:45 to 9 o'clock, tying in with all the city's activities at Tidelands Park to 8:45. I've already met with Kirk Carmichael. They're all for this, at least the city is. We've got everything together. All we need is the money to the fireworks company. The fireworks company that is putting it on has done this in our bay many years. They are very dependable, very reputable, and I've already paid them. So it's going to go on whether or not I get the money or not from you folks, but it sure would help because I paid for it myself. One of the things that I pride myself on is the integrity of raising my hand and making things happen. So I needed to get the money to the fireworks people, and I wrote a check. But I would like some help. I've already had some merchants on the Embarcadero give me checks because they want to see this happen. And I think it's important to Morro Bay to continue the tradition of the fireworks on the 4th of July. And that's why I'm here. And if you have any other questions for me or why I'm doing this, it's strictly an economic factor for myself. It's going to, one of the restaurants on the Embarcadero said he loses $5,000 that day without fireworks, and he's monitored the last 2 years that we have not had fireworks. He wrote me a check for $3,000, one restaurant on the Embarcadero. Any questions?
I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit.
Before we open up for questions, can you tell the board it's on, it's not working?
Can you tell the board the process you have to go through with Coastal Commission to get approval, to get to the point where you are now?
Right. I have Kathy Novak, who some people might know is a consultant and works with the Coastal Commission quite a bit. And we're working on a waiver from the Coastal Commission. We have to go through state parks. We've got to go through the Coast Guard. We've got to go through, a lot of hurdles to get all the permitting processes together. So this is not just something that I said, okay, here's the money to the fireworks company and we're going to blow it off. I mean, we've got a lot of people that are looking at this for the safety, for the any damage that may occur. to any of the wildlife. And I know some people would think that it's harmful to them, and I'm not an expert here. I'm not going to say it's not, or it is, but it's 15 minutes, folks, 8:45 to 9 o'clock. That's all we're going to do. And we have all the bodies, and if by some chance we don't get the regulatory approval to do this, then we won't do it. I mean, I'm giving the best effort that I possibly can. That's why I'm here in front of you, donating my time to make this happen. I'm a businessman, but I'm also an environmentalist. I'm the treasurer of the Morro Bay Open Space Alliance. I believe in the Greenbelt theory. I believe in nature, but I'm also a realist. And sometimes we go overboard, to be very honest with you. And so that's why I'm here, and I hope that you support us. This is a tremendous tourism thing, and I would like your support.
Thank you very much, Bill. I imagine the board has some questions here, so who would like to begin? Stephen, go right ahead.
Can you hear me? Actually, two questions. Bill, of the $18,000, how much have you raised so far?
So far, I've raised $4,000.
Okay. Number two, as a hotelier, we very much advocate fireworks. Our guests do want them for the 4th of July, or they're going to go somewhere else. That's a fact. It is a peak season of the year, so I think we'll fill the rooms regardless, but the rates would be higher if we had fireworks. Having said that, Audubon Society and the birders are also our friends. One of our properties is the Bird Friends Inn. What type of research has been done in terms of where you set off the fireworks to cause the least disruption to the wildlife?
As I say, we've worked with state parks, and prior to the last 2 years, and I don't know how long you've been in town, fireworks have been on the 4th of July for many, many, many years. We hold these on a barge, pretty much, I would say, west of the launching ramp, if you're familiar where the launch ramp is down there by the boats. And state parks is in Brooks. I've talked to Brooks. That is their preferable site, which they will not have any issues. Now, our preferable site maybe would be, another area, but this seems to be the compromise that everyone agrees to. So the research that's been done, and the snowy plowers is one concern, and there's never been a broken snowy plower egg in the research that we've done with the fireworks. The only time it did have an issue, what I have been told, is an Audubon Society member accidentally stepped on an egg trying to monitor it. I mean, I'm not being facetious, but that's the reality of it. So there's been no harm to the wildlife that has been recorded.
Thank you. Board, further questions, comments?
Yeah. And a question is, did you look at alternatives? Like we received, communication from people who suggested maybe a laser show, and I know we did that a few years ago. And did you look at any of that, or does the overwhelming consensus seem to be that fireworks are the only answer?
Well, the laser works, it was done in this in Morro Bay at one time. Mm-hmm. It was not very well received.
Yeah.
More than likely, and I'm saying this truthfully, there might be fog. I mean, that's the time of year that's always fog. Now, on our board of the Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Department is a gentleman called Travis Ford. He ran the 4th of July for a couple of years. And his synopsis is that people go to Tidelands Park if it's foggy or whatever. They just want to see some fireworks. And so they'll stick around even if it's foggy, and they'll stay there till 9 o'clock at Tidelands Park. Right now, the events that the city puts on for the 4th of July ends at 4 o'clock. People leave, and they leave the town. And so what we're trying to do is tie in to an event that will continue to a culmination of the fireworks. So laser has been done, but it hasn't been well received, and so that's not something that I would even try to propose.
Two quick questions. First of all, I totally applaud you for raising your hand on things like this. I'm all for the handful of people that do that. Two questions. One, it sounds like the hoteliers are being asked to front basically 55% of the total cost, $10 out of $18,000. To what extent have retailers and restaurants been asked to come together, I guess, instead of individually contributing? And the second question is, we're about 6 weeks out from 4th of July, and it sounds like we want to make this more of a long-term thing. I was wondering if there's any risk if we have a kind of a little bit of a, I don't want to say hasty, if we put together something really quickly in 6 weeks, is there any chance that we hurt our long-term prospects by reputation or whatever for future fireworks shows?
I think we hurt our reputation if we delayed it another year, personally. Now, I also put on the drive-in movie night at The Rock. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. We create a drive-in experience, and truthfully, we're thinking of exchanging that and putting together a New Year's Eve fireworks show on the Sandspit. I know that people will say, geez, another fireworks show. But let me put it this way to you. All the work that puts in for the drive-in movie night, which I've donated, or our organization has donated $15,000 so far to the Harbor Department. I have done this. We are now in a campaign to build a new restroom and a new harbor office on the Embarcadero. It takes private enterprise to help the public achieve some goals. And I have stepped up. I have 3 things I want to achieve in the harbor. And a lot of it's economic. If I can get some economic value, and this is also going to help the merchants support us even more. You say 55%. Yes, that's probably true, but a restaurant did write me a check for $3,000. And as I say, I put up the rest of the money as upfront because I needed to secure this event and this date. And yes, it is a little bit quick than what I really would love to, but we'll pull it off. I mean, we have a lot of people that really want to make this happen. They're probably behind the scenes more than in front of the scenes, but it will happen. So, thank you.
Further questions? Taylor?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So, in reading the report, it said that we hadn't had fireworks for several years, and you said it was 2 years that we haven't had fireworks, and how there hasn't been. You said that the visitors have decreased on the 4th of July because of that. And I was thinking in my head that with the hotel business, that I imagine during that season, hotels are full regardless of what's going on. I think that he just said the same thing down there. But he also made a good point that more money could be made because of fireworks. And then when we're talking about fireworks, 15 minutes, but then if we have fireworks, that means that we get fireworks at other times of the year. So now you have fireworks at New Year's Eve, and you have fireworks for Harbor Festival, and let's have fireworks for Amgen. I don't know. And my point with the fireworks, for me personally, is that I don't think fireworks are appropriate for Morro Bay, period. And I think that by taking that card off the table, you save so much money and so much time. And I'm a huge proponent of send them to the fireworks over at Cayucas and stay in Morro Bay. But I like to look at the long picture, and 4th of July is an American holiday. Blowing things up is oftentimes so American. And a lot of times we think like, hey, if we blow something up, we'll win. Hey, we'll make more money if we blow a bunch of stuff up. And I think, okay, maybe, but at the same time, what's the future? What's the future for Morro Bay? And, if we're selling ourselves around the world with our Amgen tour and our being China ready, do we want to spend all this money and time on blowing things up when it's not even an international holiday? So my point is that, like...
Taylor, there is the 4th of July in other countries, though.
Okay, I think the point that I'm making, though, is that, like, for me, the fireworks, I think, is not something that we should spend so much time and money on. And when it comes down to just sitting here in this table, twice now this year, I've had fireworks brought to me, and the incentive's been, we've already paid for it, so give us the money. I don't like that, period. That's not how I do business. And I definitely don't do events with 6 weeks notice, period. I don't do trash with 6 weeks notice, let alone going to the Coastal Commission. That seems crazy to me, but I got other stuff to do, as we all do. So you will not get my vote.
Well, that's fine, and I understand that. And again, I think I started off here is I raised my hand reluctantly, okay? But someone sometimes does need to raise their hand if something's going to get done. Now, I'm not a rich person, and $18,000 would kill me if I had to pay for this myself. So I had no choice if I was going to make this happen. It's not like I can't ask the fireworks company, well, I don't have any money now. So they have to schedule their events, and they have to do everything. And so it was just something that was a fluid motion. Now, if this is the only time that I do this, so be it. And I appreciate your points.
Thank you, Taylor. So some thoughts out there is, we do realize this could be a controversial issue. We do want to press forward with this. I want to recognize, without naming names, I have personally received quite a few emails on this subject here. I printed them and have them with me here, so I want the public to recognize I read them all, responded to those that were appropriate, others did not, but spent the time and understand this can be a contentious environmental issue. I also appreciate Bill's statement. It is 15 minutes, 8:45 to 9, which I think does kind of mitigate that overall damage. When we were living in Las Vegas, my wife was a sales manager at Westin Lake Las Vegas, 500 key hotel. They did several fireworks shows a year, and that alone would bring in tremendous rate compression. So while a lot of our properties here are full or close to, we realize they can drive the rate higher. Jen took it upon herself to do kind of an informal survey, because as the board here, we're supposed to represent the constituency. So I think she did a fantastic job just getting the pulse of the town, and a lot of people did recognize that they could get more money out of their rooms. So as a board, our job is to focus on helping tourism, helping our fellow hoteliers. So there's two questions here. Firstly, do we help Bill in funding the fireworks or not? And if we do choose to help him, how much? Now, he's requesting $10,000 from us. Doesn't mean we have to go the full $10,000 either. I think as a board, we recognize it is a little late to the effort with only 6 weeks left. But Bill, you're also volunteering your time, and sometimes that's where it is. One question for you. If this is successful, are you planning on orchestrating this again next year? Is there momentum to be had here? Is this
I think that if I am successful for the 4th of July, I probably will, and because I think that it would be stupid just do it 1 year. Now, whether I do it personally or not will be a debatable subject, but I think someone needs to continue this momentum because that's what it's all about. It's not, because this first year, some people won't even know that there's fireworks. So we have to start building that momentum back up, that to go to Morro Bay, you will see a fireworks. We used to have 30,000 visitors come into town to see the Morro Bay fireworks, line up the Embarcadero. I mean, it was incredible. So I think we need to start that tradition again.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. So as the board right now, we're supposed to have a discussion on this topic. Now, if we're starting to feel like we can open up to public comment, if there's any public comment to weigh in on this. Do we have any public comment? No. Okay. Jen?
So Aaron?
Yes.
I'm so torn about this because particularly for this year because it is happening, and falls under the category you were saying as a board, let's have a discussion about it, is that if I look at my rooms, for instance, most of them are already booked. And I come back to the same thing that we run into all the time, is on the back of our overnight guests, that's who will be paying. That's ultimately where the funding will come from on this $10,000. Yet if most of our rooms are already booked already, I can't raise that rate now, so that's done. I guess my issue is really the quickness of this, of this being there. To me, it comes back to who's really going to benefit from this, and it is the restaurants and the businesses, because then people will stay in town and all that. So from a monetary, this puts a huge burden on you, but I would really love to see some of that money come from them, and I recognize that you got the single check for the $3,000. Hats off to that person who recognized that. But I guess my issue is us paying so much of it when I think really if we represent the hotel community, our benefits, will be limited. Who's really going to benefit are the merchants.
Well said. I completely agree, and that's why I was suggesting we don't have to give the full $10,000. Perhaps as a board, we want to support this to a certain degree, realizing that it's not in the best interest of our constituency to give the full $10,000, give Bill some money, try to make it a bit of a success for him, and then next year, assuming it is, we can have greater time in planning, possibly allocate more funds, and push this event to be something more substantial and drive rate at our properties. Jen, did you have a question or thought over there?
Excuse me, can I, one of the things, and I understand that you represent hotelers more than anything else, but, if we don't support our merchants, and we don't support our restaurants, and we don't support our retail shops, a lot of people won't come to Morro Bay. And so I think you need to, look at this as a whole picture. One of the Chamber of Commerce, who is trying to create an economic engine here in Morro Bay. We're in dire straits, the city of Morro Bay. I don't know if everyone here is not aware of it. And the one thing that we don't do is we don't support the existing businesses a lot that are here. And one of the things, and I believe the Chamber, Erica, did a survey. One of the things that they wanted was fireworks back, period. This is our existing merchants, our people that come here to try to make a living and to bring the tourists in here. It ties in. This whole thing ties in. And I understand that maybe you can't raise your rates, but maybe you can next year. But the point being is that we reach a point where, I'm a firm believer is that if we don't support our infrastructure, which basically is the Bay, the Bay is Morro Bay. And it is dying right now. It is dying. The infrastructure, the pilings, the eelgrass is disappearing. We have some serious issues. So the point being is that, now, what does that have to do with fireworks? But the point being is that I think, again, helps out a little bit with the Embarcadero leaseholders. That's who I represent, really, basically, is because they pay revenue to the city of Morro Bay, 3% of gross in most cases. We get no TBID on the harbor. That all goes to the city's funds, which, again, that's another contentious subject because they are a leaseholder on that thing, too. But point being is
only so many controversial topics today,
so
Bill. Just keep it on point.
We need to look at the whole picture here, not just so much hotelers, but we need to support the merchants, and I think you need to help do that. Now, if it's not in the tune of 10, I would appreciate anything, seriously.
Support. And Lori, since you are effectively the expert on Brown Act and protocol and these kinds of things, I would advocate right now we possibly do a two-stage vote. The first being, do we have an appetite as a board to help fund this? And if we do so, at a 51%, then how much do we want to fund? Could we break it up like this to move this forward?
We could have someone make a motion with a dollar amount and see whether or not it goes.
You want us to do it that way? All right. Jen, please.
So I just want to go over a couple things with you guys on this. First of all, and to Bill's thought, we do support hotels support retail and restaurants quite a bit. Our passport program is totally to benefit them and drives through our hotel guests, and we do not charge restaurants or retails to participate at all in that. So we are actively participating. I agree with Bill. The Embarcadero is absolutely empty on 4th of July. I mean, I've seen it. You can like shoot a cannon through there. There's not a single person. So how does that resolve, and how is TBID involved? I don't really know exactly the answer for that. This is an unusual year because 4th of July is on a Tuesday. So we have a significantly long weekend compared to, a 2 or 3 day weekend. So we have the opportunity for a longer stay. I did call around to quite a few hotels to see, their thoughts as far as compression and are they full or not. And for the most part, the hotels down on the waterfront, such as Maggie's, are already booked, which does make sense because they're limited, and so they need to fill up early. Talking with a lot of the downtown hotels, they say they will be full. Not that they're full right now, but we will be full. But if there were fireworks, they would get a higher ADR. So that was kind of the position that I got from the downtown hotels. When you look at our total rooms, the majority of our rooms are in downtown. So keep that in mind. That's a huge amount of our total rooms compared to the waterfront rooms. Harbor Festival, I did receive their grant, and they are not doing fireworks this year, just so you all have that settled in your mind as well. So that is a non-issue this year. So if you have any other questions for me, and Stephen's properties are in downtown, so he might be able to speak about how you see fireworks as far as revenue or not, or your choice. But
Sure. I think you raised a good point that 4th of July falls on a Tuesday. So we're not completely full. Purely talking about the economics here and not, the other issues. Sometimes I feel like an outsider. I don't really know everything that's going on. There seems to be a love-hate relationship between the tourists and the locals. But nonetheless, just looking at the pure economics of this, without a doubt, our staff, our guests, said that they would very much like to see fireworks. So having the holiday fall on a Tuesday gives us the opportunity to book not only through the weekend, but the Monday, the Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday after. So it would be a very good thing for us. So personally, I would support it. Yes, it's short notice. If you're saying that it's done in a responsible manner for the wildlife, it is short notice. So maybe, I would make a motion that we support it in the amount of $5,000 this year. If things go well and we have more time to advertise it in future years, perhaps that amount could go up. But I would make a motion that we support it in the amount of $5,000 this year.
I like what you're saying, Stephen. That was essentially my thoughts as well. Do we have a second on that motion?
I second that.
Sean, you're about to. Go ahead.
Once we get to that stage, that means discussion ends?
Effectively. Do you have something to add? We can let Stephen's motion rest for a moment, and you can add. Sure. We want a good conclusion here, but we also want to move forward.
Perhaps there's an opportunity to amend the motion such that we can incentivize restaurants and retailers to actually contribute as well and have some sort of dollar-for-dollar matching. I was going to propose something along the lines of a matching up to $9,000 if we can see evidence of retailers and restaurants contributing to whatever dollar amount that is, because I think in theory it feels like a good idea as long as we can tell that we're in partnership with people rather than funding something entirely. That's just throwing it out there.
Okay. We would not need to go that high. My understanding is we're looking at an $18,000 budget. You've already collected $4,000, so we have a $14,000 gap. Effectively, we could go to $7,000, match dollar for every dollar put out there within the constituency. But then we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to advocate $7,000 of our budget for compression, which is close to Stephen's motion. But saying we're matching might be a good way to incentivize the community. We're behind them, as we know that I think restaurants and retail are going to find a greater lift from this than the remaining hotels.
Perhaps then I'll just motion to amend the $5,000 by adding the matching requirement to that $5,000.
I think that's beautifully well said. So, Lori, protocol here, is Sean allowed to amend Stephen's, or must Stephen amend his motion?
Stephen must have read it.
Is there a coin toss at any point in this?
If there's no motion maker and if he declines, then we would vote on his motion and then we would look for a second motion.
Perfectly clear. Stephen?
I would agree with that. Bill, it's realistic in the time that's allotted. Okay, I would agree with that.
Okay, so we have an amended motion. To be perfectly clear, we will match funds dollar for dollar up to $5,000, and we need a second on that motion.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So to be clear here, I want to count the votes again. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes. Opposed?
No.
And abstentions. 1 abstention. All right, motion passes. Bill, thank you for your time and volunteering to the community. We appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do need to ask what the reason is for the extension.
I've made promises to my constituents, and I belong to several environmental groups, and I echo Taylor's thoughts. As a businessman, I really feel that it could be economically beneficial. However, I have made promises that I will keep. So,
All right, thank you. Okay, wrapping up fireworks there. Now we'll move on, getting back on the agenda course here. Item number 3, SLOCAL update, which is rather convenient. We just had our monthly meeting yesterday, and I will give some of the brief thoughts from that. I know we want to make up some time here. There's been a lot of great success within SLOCAL. I think the biggest thing that we experienced yesterday was last week was our tourism exchange, which is our annual meeting where we invite all the public, members of the constituency, city leaders, and so forth. It was at the Embassy Suites. Phenomenal event, tons of fun, very professionally engaged, and we even had, so it started at 11:30 a.m. with multiple presentations on what SLOCAL has been up to, and then it adjourned to a mixer reception at the Monday Club in San Luis Obispo. Yeah, I can't even begin to summarize how much has been accomplished at a county level in the last month. One of the handouts was this, which will be going around to our entire population within the county of all the achievements, dollars raised. We've been in multiple countries, multiple times. It was tremendous. I would spend the next 2 hours discussing it. One of those achievements was the effective convention center, conference center market study. Now, this has also been released to the public. SLOCAL paid for this, and this was a lot of our constituents' dollars putting to work here to review the ability for a convention and conference center to be brought to the county. This is extremely extensive. This is a printout of the entire booklet here. As you see, double-sided, looking at market conditions, pickup, demand, comp sets, and so forth. We are encouraging this to be released. I know my hotel brokerage will be also releasing this data to developers all around the country to see if they have an appetite for this. So effectively, the homework's been done. The numbers are in place. We just need a developer, investors, possible public sector and private sector JV to make this happen. Doesn't mean it will, but at least we're starting to set the stage for that. So that is tremendous, and that is downloadable from the SLOCAL website. Other achievements, most of the executive staff from SLOCAL, they were at the Black Diamond tour, which is a familiarity tourism group based in the UK and Ireland. They were there earlier this month presenting our region, and some of them will be coming here on a FAM tour to break down in greater detail on bringing groups here. That was very exciting. The executive SLOCAL staff is actually going to be leaving then next week to go to both Mexico and Canada on more FAM tours, helping to raise interest about our county here. You may have seen there's multiple 30-second commercials for SLOCAL that were played during the Amgen tour 2 days ago, and really helps to brand our entire region. Big part of that, there were some phenomenal visuals of our lovely rock, and really helps to kind of trademark our town.
can I mention something?
Absolutely, Charlie. That's pretty much the highlights. Charlie would like to mention something as well.
I just want to thank Jennifer for assisting in bringing Black Diamond here to Morro Bay and really giving it a Morro Bay-centric push. We worked together to put together some swag bags for these folks with abalones, with sea glass, with all good lip balm, and the one cool thing were the oyster shuckers with Morro Bay on them that they got. We also provided maps of the state parks, of the Estero Bluffs, even Montana de Oro, but we made it Morro Bay centric, And so they had breakfast with us this morning at 6:30, and we're very impressed and very happy with what they've seen. And of course, waking up to see the view of the rock was spectacular for them. So I really want to thank Jen and SlowCal for pulling this together. Black Diamond will make a big difference for us in Morro Bay.
And that could not have been done without the synergies experienced. All of us DMOs within the county working together to fund SlowCal to get that kind of international outreach. So it's phenomenal. Of course, it was a multi-hour meeting yesterday, so I'll spare you all the details, but those are effectively some of the highlights and achievements. Any questions or comments?
I had a question for you, Aaron.
Yeah.
I loved the article I read in the paper about the convention center report. Especially the comparison to the Monterey Convention Center.
Santa Barbara, Fresno, yeah.
Yeah. And so how fast is the timeline on our county making moves on action from that report?
That's a very good question. At this point, there does not appear to be a 100% public appetite to build this. They're going to be looking for the private sector to come on board as well. And that's why we wanted to open this up to capitalism. And let's see what investors, hoteliers, event managers, and so forth that could start coming together to make something like this happen. Now, the really brilliant thing about a good conference center is when you read this study and you read the other comp sets, the majority of guests come for off-season midweek business. That's going to be your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays in November, December, January, exactly the times that we need hotel guests to be in our region. And so it effectively will not inundate our towns in the dead of summertime when everything is already rocking and rolling. This puts the business, it really laser focuses it where we need it. And so we know it will be a benefit to our community. We just need to find the funds and the appetite to do so.
My last comment was this morning they had a good article in the paper about the airport and all the additions we've done to the airport, but how our the space where you line up to, I don't know if you've been to our airport where you line up, it's so tiny, and I mean we still have so much to do to be at the level we're trying to be at. So I would think that from my point of view, and I'm still not yet 40, that like these things, these buying of technology, buying the right equipment for the job is what we're supposed to do to get to where we're supposed to be, and having an airport that can accommodate the people that we want and having a convention center, these things have to get done.
Well said, Taylor. Yeah, and SlowCal was integral in helping to bring the new airport here. SlowCal was very instrumental in getting those direct flights to Seattle, which launched last month, and now we're also getting those direct flights to Denver, launching in June. Yeah, next month. It's right around the corner. We've gone a decade here without any new flights, and within one quarter, we've added a flight to Seattle and the Denver market, and Chuck and the rest of his executive team, they're not slowing down. They want to see if they can get a further eastbound flight. So, and those will also be to different demographic regions with different climate, which then helps to complement the climate we experience here and bring guests to us. So they're accomplishing amazing things. All of us are extremely proud of what Chuck and the team have been able to do. Is there any public comment on that? All right. Next item on the agenda, item number 4, which is the March 2017 TOT report from our tourism manager.
Okay, I'm going to go over our little infographic sheet really quick to talk about March TOT compared to the year before. There were some pretty significant market factors I just want to point out to start. Of course, Highway 1 has been closed, but more importantly, spring break last year fell in March, plus Easter did. So we had a really strong, at least 2-week, maybe 3-week window that was very strong in March last year, and this year, spring break and Easter fell in April. So that's probably the largest change that I saw for March this year compared to last. If you look at the top left box, that's the STAR report that shows all of the neighboring communities. And if you look down at the coastal ones specifically, Cambria, Pismo, San Simeon, and North Coast, they're also significantly lower in their occupancy. Most of them are about 5-6 points down over last year. And some of that, probably like San Simeon, is definitely due to Highway 1, but a lot of this would be related to the Easter break as well. Our room count has also changed. You'll notice at the bottom it says 912, and that was the change with the landing transferring from breakers to landing. It was closed for the majority of the month. So April, we should be back up to 100% of our rooms and back to normal numbers. Okay? Can I answer any questions on the TOT report?
Thank you, Jen. As she noted, and I'm sure as all of you have reviewed, yeah, the numbers are down. Highway 1 closure, unprecedented quantities of rain, which are wonderful for the trout, but it's definitely suppressed tourism. I know at our hotel brokerage, we spend 3 to 5 hours a day just on the phone and emailing, speaking with other hotel owners all around the state. And frankly, this summer is a huge question mark. We're finding a lot of people aren't quite sure if they want to sell their property just yet, and they want to see how the summer of 17 plays out. If there's even a small dip in performance year over year, we anticipate a lot of people are going to want to unload their inventory. And so we have to just be well aware of that as a DMO and keep the conversation going.
And talking with hoteliers in town, April seems to have had a lift, which is good. I'll be interested to see those numbers come out. And we did put more money into our paid media in May and in June, anticipating a little bit of a tough summer.
Thank you, Jen. Board, do you have questions or thoughts for Jen? Public comment? Right. And then we'll move on to the next item. Item number 5, which is the proposed TBID budget for the fiscal year. And Jen, since this is your budget, why don't we just start off, you talk us through it, your thoughts, your staff report.
Sure. I'm going to, let me put this up here for the audience to see, maybe. So I'm going to go through the budget just line by line, and feel free, let's stop at any point and ask questions as we go. You'll notice that there are some comments on the right-hand side for different categories. Those comments by no means account for 100% of the line items in that item. It's just to give you more of an idea of what is in that line item. Okay? So, and Ikani, I'll have you, some of this is Ikani's stuff as well, so we'll kind of go back and forth on questions from you guys. So starting at the very top, 31.
Jennifer, can I ask? One thing I was very confused about was the, okay, across the top it says 2015 actual, 2016 actual, 2017 actual, 2017 amended, 2018. So I was confused about, I would have expected to see those categories to be fiscal year 2016-17, fiscal year 2017-18. Can you explain those columns?
Sure. Do you want to explain, or you want me to?
Maggie, so are you just asking?
Is it fiscal year?
Yeah, so that's fiscal year. That's what we go by.
Okay, so the last column that says 2018
that's
level
proposed.
1. That's proposed fiscal year 17-18.
17-18 starting July.
Okay, good.
Yep. Good question.
I kind of assumed it, but it was very confusing because of the 2017. Okay,
right,
thanks.
and so the actual and amended for 2016-17, which is the two columns next to it,
okay,
are we amended it. Remember, we put some extra money. So the TBID budget rolls a little bit depending on what our numbers are coming in for the tax. So it's not a solid, you have 800,000, or it does rotate a little bit. So that's part of that change. And then there was a couple amendments that City Council put additional money in, as you know, this last year for a couple different things. So that's part of the amendment. Sean?
Just another quick question about the columns. The amended, if 2017 amended versus actual, which is actual, does that mean it was amended and then that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, great question. So 2017 actual is when this was printed. That's how much we spent already, actually, to date. So this was printed a few weeks ago. So that's how much we have. 2017, basically think of that as that's what we have to spend. So there was an amendment done mid-year. So that's our proposed budget that we're aiming to hit.
So then to illustrate that accurately, Akani, class number 3990, department total, promotion and advertising. We're showing here under 2017, the actual amount was $38,370, and the amended budget was $20,000, correct? So then we would be $18,000 over budget in that scenario?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and so, but we're not over budget, so just keep, that's revenue, but keep in mind as we go through this is our first year in the city budget, so their categories did not 100% match what the Bureau had, and so we've tried to address them as well as we could. As long as our total bottom number does not go over our budgeted amount, we're good. Because that was a concern as well.
P&L categories are always confusing, yes.
Especially when you change in the middle of the year and have a different background. Any other questions before we start going through this? Okay. So the first line item is the promotion and advertising. That is actually revenue in. In this case, the $4,000 we are assuming will be for sales for our advertising visitors guide. This last year or current year, the $20,000 is visitors guide, plus we had some income from hosting OAX. So that's why it's so much larger than next year's budget. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to 3801, the transfers in. We're projecting $134,928, and that's the general fund transfer, and that's the amount that's part of the city agreement, the $60,000 plus 20% above the actuals, and we'll adjust that when we finish our year out and see where we are. So that's just a estimated from the accounting department on where they think we'll land. Current year, it's $60,000 though. Any questions on that? No?
Yeah, Jennifer, I have to go back to the first one, the advertising.
Yes.
Again, after understanding the columns. So as revenue, we expect to get $20,000, right, in 2017, but we've actually only received $300. So am I reading that right?
It was probably categorized incorrectly because of coming in-house and, yeah. But we did receive quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, Maggie, it's offset. If you look down at the first gray line there, the actual amount received in revenues was $38,370. We budgeted for $20,000, so effectively we had $18,000 greater revenue overall within that classification. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah,
Sure.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Budgets are so fun.
Yeah. And Jen, did you just want to go down this line by line and just talk us through it? Because I think we'll probably end up moving around.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Just we'll go through one by one.
Top to bottom.
Yep. So going down to 3107, which is personnel department expense. That is my full-time salary and 2 part-timers. I have an assistant that works 30 hours, and then I have a communications coordinator. I see a lot of confused faces over there. You guys finding it? It's about halfway down on the first page. Department 3170. It says promotion, advertising, personnel services.
4110, the 4,000 series.
I had a question on that one. So 4110, your regular pay one, that's one of your people?
That's me.
That's you, okay. And then the part-time, 4310, that's 2 people. And, right?
Correct.
Okay, this is a personal one for me because I was on the TBID before we transitioned over to the city staff. And one of the things I loved about the way we had it set up through the nonprofit was that we were able to really take care of our employees, which for me, how I was taught about this tourism industry is it's about hospitality. And hospitality, how I was trained, is about people and about how we treat people. So your staff is really important in the hospitality industry, and they need to be cared for because they're in an industry of caring. I mean, we should treat everybody like that, but it's especially important in this industry. And my feeling as far as the city taking on the staff responsibilities is it kind of takes away from me the ability so much to control that. But previously, I felt like every year we tried to take care of our staff the best we could for the limited staff we had. Are we doing that? Are we paying them the amount that they should be getting paid to retain them and to make them happy employees? Because Lord knows in Morro Bay, we sure do have staff turnover, right? And that sucks. So I would like them to be paid appropriately as the industry standard should be. And if they're doing jobs that are beyond what they're supposed to be doing, gosh, we're not even paying them for the work they're doing. So Mike, I really do want to make sure that we're paying your staff appropriately so that you have the people that you need. So can you respond on that?
Yes, Taylor, thank you. So personnel is one that's we on the budget team had to be careful. What we were told when we came in is that personnel couldn't be too much of this. So to answer your question, we have in there a percentage in our mind that we can go over. It's about 22% of personnel. So we have some wiggle room. Right now, personnel of the budget, we're about 19%. We have 2 part-timers. They are overloaded right now. They're taking a lot of our finance responsibilities because our finance is understaffed right now. So in addition to their tourism responsibilities, they're doing AP as well. So Taylor, you asked a good question, and we have put in there some wiggle room to, depending on their evaluations,
I have a response.
What they deserve.
So on what you just said, so let's go back to how we changed since I was on the previous group. Part of the sales pitch I call it a sales pitch, part of the transition pitch with the city was that the city was going to be providing us with legal and accounting services, which we previously paid for through the nonprofit. And now the city pays for that. So if our staff for the for Jennifer, is doing the accounting services out of our budget, when that accounting services were part of the budget that's supposed to be covered by the city, that's wrong. And then if we're not paying them appropriately, like if we're trying to cut dollars on people, I think that's wrong, especially when we're able to just throw money at a 6 weeks plan to do fireworks. We just, okay, here's some money for fireworks when you have 6 weeks to plan it, but we're not going to treat our own employees properly. I think that's wrong, and it bothers me a lot.
Taylor, I appreciate that. So right now, I help with TBID. You're not paying my salary. So on the other part of that is there's a lot of things not being paid out of here that should be paid out, but TBID's getting a discount on other stuff. So I just want to let you know that go ahead, Taylor.
TBID's getting a discount. So so the city council has you, Connie, and formerly Dave. That's the city management. And they've taken on this tourism portion into their budget. And so you, with the direction and management of the city, that's your job. That doesn't have to do with TBID. That's your job. We're specifically talking about accounting, legal, and then Jen and her staff. Now, as far as you and Dave go, or whatever else the city goes, that's a city's responsibility. It doesn't have to. I don't see how that comes into it. And I especially don't get how we're getting a discount. Like, we're an assessment. We're not a business. How are we getting a discount? Like,
Taylor,
these words are
okay.
These words are confusing to me.
Okay.
Especially since I've been around. I've been around through, me personally, I've been through multiple city managers. I've been through multiple tourism people. This isn't my first. I've been through multiple people up here. So words need to mean something.
Okay.
Let's say really what's going on.
Okay, here we go. So who's budgeting? Who's creating these budgets with Jen? Taylor? Would you like to know?
That's what I'm hoping to find out, yes,
okay.
Sir.
So my time and Jen, my job here is to have oversight with TBID. So Jen and her team need oversight, and so her and I are meeting endless hours to the middle of the night to make this budget happen. So my time is not taken out of here. That's what I'm saying. When I say discount, it is not allocated here. It is allocated in a different budget, but
that's your job for city council. So, city council is in charge of the city manager. You're next down under the city manager, correct? Especially with us not having a city manager. The city manager be gone. So, your job right now is important, but you're working for city council, not for us.
Taylor, what I'm saying is, I'm talking about where the funds come from. my job is to serve the public and everybody and all the hotels. What I'm saying is how we deal in local budgeting, finance budgeting, this is just finance 101 right now, is if you do something for a department, you should get paid out of that department. If I do something for finance, I should get paid out of finance. If I do something for IT department, I should get paid out of IT. That's all we're referring to when we're saying that my time is spent in IT right now, or my time I am doing on TBID, being here right now with TBID, giving, whatever I'm giving right now, my time is not being paid out of here. It's being paid out of somewhere else. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, if the word discount, you don't want to use that. I'm just saying, typically, all the departments are funded out of that budget. Right now, my budget is all being paid out of a different budget that's not in here. That's all I wanted to let you know. But any other questions?
I had a question, either Jen or Connie, and staying out of the politics of it. I guess I just don't understand the strategy if you're proposing a 10% reduction in the part-time pay, but you're also saying that the staff is overloaded and it's harder than ever to hire good people right now in this economy. I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, so you're looking at 4310 right now, and you see the 61 going down to 55?
Correct.
So right now, it's important to look at the 34K, because that's what actuals are. What was amended, we had a higher number. Again, this was coming from the Bureau. So their budget numbers that came in was just copied and pasted, that 61K that you're seeing. Right now, our actuals are 34, and we're not at year end. So I know it looks a bit confusing because you're looking at proposed, but once we have a few years of this TBID being with the city, it'll look easier to read next year, but 34 to 55 is what we're looking at.
Got it. Thank you.
Good question, Stephen.
Doesn't mean we're going to spend all of it. It's just in there.
Taking a quick step back to total revenues. Revenues total, to this point, we've collected $669,004. We're budgeting a $944 on revenues. That is a pretty substantial gap. I realize we have not closed out the year. We have a couple of months left. What is the pro forma on that? Can we cover that spread and get to the 944 before we shoot for a greater revenue?
Say that one more time. I'm just
sorry,
looking at
economy.
it. No, go ahead. So you said 944 revenues? Repeat.
Exactly, yeah. The very final bottom line revenue total
revenues,
under
okay.
revenues. To date, we've collected $669,000.
Yeah.
We're budgeting 944. But I realize we have several months left. Where are we at on that pro forma?
So it's important to note that revenues, when it hits the books, we're 2 months behind because TOT it rolls in a bit late. So when this was printed out, March wasn't on here yet. So we have
this
March.
is just through February.
This is up to February.
So effectively, we still have March,
We have
April, May,
and
June.
May. Exactly.
So 4 months.
Yeah. Okay. So we won't know our book. So we're confident where we are at, that we're going to hit 944, if not more, on that.
So is the 1.04 million, is that the pro forma of the 669 or some increased amount? Oh, you see what I'm saying? For the future budget, you have 1,046,000. Is that just extrapolating the 669?
And that's just projecting that we're going to do better next year.
So that's just taking the 944, and what percentage increase is that? Is that a half, 75 basis point bump, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some.
Maybe it makes more sense to extrapolate from the actual rather than the unknown budget amount on that one. I don't know.
What he's saying is actual is for the fiscal year of 16-17, we've only collected through February.
True. I'm saying projections on the 669 would likely be more accurate for next year than our previously amended budget for this year that has no actual information.
So what?
Yeah.
So we're basing on actuals. We don't base on proposed.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. We're on the same page.
Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that. I didn't mean to derail you, going back to revenues. I'm sorry, you were elaborating then on staff compensation and expenses, right? Question that I do have regarding that, though, is to this point, going back to paid compensation, account classification here, the 10 personnel, we've spent $125,000 on staff we're budgeting $173,000 to close out the year, correct? And then for 2018, we're looking at $193,000 in proposed staffing budget. Is that bonuses, or is that additional staff being brought on board? How do we move? What's the justification for moving that needle up?
So there's 125. That's where we were at a few weeks ago. With this budget being new, transitioning from the Bureau, right now we put some increases in there for our part-timers depending on evaluations. And so what we have in there is a mixture of understanding where we are with our personnel. The important thing with us is we want to prevent coming back and asking for more. So what we do is we want to make sure that we're at the higher end. Because if we're on the lower end, we always have to come back into City Council and ask for a budget amendment. So just because the 193 is in there doesn't mean we're going to use it all. We just had to have that in there because some of the things that may come up is a position such as an event coordinator. Something that if you approved, we may have some funds in there. So there is some opportunities there, some wiggle room that is not in our personnel, but we just needed to make sure that we had some room for that to propose that to you. That was approved.
And I am not against giving good compensation to talented staff. In fact, we need to do so. So Jen and Connie, I understand you're clarifying something. That's good.
I just want to be clear that the regular pay is a city employee and the part-time pay are contractors. Is that correct? Your two part-timers are not city employees.
They're not FTE, no.
So they are contractors, and they do not get health benefits then?
They do not get benefits.
And they're not able to get a cost of living increase every year? I don't think that's correct. I mean, if someone's going to work, they need to be incentivized to work. And if they're going to work for no gain in the future, they know that. They'll go look for other work.
Yeah.
I would. If I didn't see a carrot dangling and going, hey, you're going to make more money, you're going to get taken care of, you're going to have benefits, it would be really tough for me to work 35 hours a week. Again, to Taylor's point, we need to take care of the people that are taking care of us. So I know that in the resolution it was written, that was signed and sealed about what we do and how it's taken care of. And this goes to further point of, the management and the hiring people and making sure that we're taking care of them and professionally managed by the city. And so I just have it's in my craw that we've got some contracted employees that are not getting benefits, that are not getting raises, that are continuing to work very, very hard on our behalf. That's what I got to say.
Thank you, Charlie, which is why I'm okay with seeing a greater budget in here, getting Jen more help to do the job that needs to be done.
It doesn't look like it in the budget.
How much more of a lift do you want to see in here to get this done effectively? Now, I know we had labor margins that we built into this as well to not exceed those certain amount to staff, but
So Charlie, I just want to make sure, Taylor and Charlie brings up a point about incentives, dangling the carrot. We have increases that we put on to our part-timers as well. Jen and I and full-timers were on, we have our levels. So each year when we pass evaluation, we get, our carrot, we get to eat our carrot. But for the part-timers, we have put a, we put an increase in there. Well,
I guess maybe a clarifying question on that. Does that mean, looking at 4110 and 4910, does that mean a 19% salary increase for one person and then a decrease in the next one for the part-time pay, and then about a 40% increase in the employer paid benefits? What's included in that section?
So this is part of when we transitioned over from the Bureau. not all the money was allocated. So before Jen and I arrived, this budget was just here. So $26K when that came over from the Bureau was not right. It should have been higher. So we're just making that right in 2018. That's a big chunk of that. It's just making sure the budget is coding things into their appropriate places. But when it comes to part-time, Taylor and Charlie are making sure that we're keeping our employees happy. There's an increase in there, based on evaluation that we'll give them, but it's in there. It's not that we're keeping them the same. So we definitely want to keep them motivated.
I'd like to pose a question in regards to the 35-hour employee that's doing the AP and AR for the Bureau. Is you're saying that the accounting in the city is lacking and is needing assistance. Couldn't this person then partially transition to a city employee and get the benefits that are deserved and provide the accounting services that we're currently doing?
Charlie, we would love to make them full-time. I think the question is, would the board want that that's the thing, is if, the guidance that we were given, Jen and I were given when we came in here is this percentage of personnel. And so if we have events coordinator that we think might come up in the future, so that might be year 1 or year 2.
He's talking about the two that are currently there, not a new person.
I understand that. So I think in the future. I don't think of right now. So once you make somebody full time, you can't. You don't want to go back and say, sorry, we don't have the budget for it.
Do we have part-time city employees? Work
Yes.
Less than 30 hours?
Three-quarter.
Like a three-quarter employee?
Yeah, we have people under 30 and part-timers over 30. But we're just going on the guidance that we were given. The guidance was just make sure that we do as much as we can, and if somebody's going to be full-time, we just need to make sure that we don't take that away from them. So, we're just putting them in there. If they're doing the work, we have people who have been 3 to 4 years, part-timers, and they're not full-time yet. So it's just things under the cities that if that's the direction you want to move, we can look into that. But we were just given.
Can I ask Jen a question? So Jen, I think I've enjoyed this conversation. What do you think, as the boss of these two people we're discussing, basically, what do you think that they should be getting paid? Are they getting paid enough? Should they get paid more? I mean, what do you think?
They're both at $15.50 an hour right now, which is low. But like Connie said, we do have potential for an increase in there. I think that the one part-timer, her bigger concern is benefits over an hourly rate increase. So we need to figure that out.
How do we figure that out?
I don't know that it's my decision. I don't know that the city is approved to add any FTEs or three-quarter. I don't know that. That's not my expertise.
So would this be something that we would advise the city council to take into discussion, and that we would like to see these people paid more?
Yes, Connie's saying yes.
So would that be, that's not a motion, right? We summarize that and we would like the city council to talk more about that, or is that what we're saying?
I think we can make a recommendation, and it's very difficult. We're up here for 3 hours a month. Jen, you're in the trenches on a daily basis, so honestly, we don't really know what you need to do the job well. We're going to defer towards your judgment to do this appropriately. So we're hearing as a board, you would like to incentivize your staff greater with benefits and some greater pay?
Yes.
Okay. To what degree do we need to do that? Is that already allocated in here to go to the 193? Just kind of, direct questions here so we can.
That was just on salaries. That was to get. I think that was for you to get you. So
We would have to rework the budget, Aaron, to have that in there, is what Connie's saying.
Okay. I think as the board here, we would be okay with that. Now, how does that work with timetables and everything like that? We just do this a few hours a month, so we're a little out of the loop on this process.
So the good thing is our liaison to city council is right here, Red. So he's hearing this, he's getting it. He's been meeting with our staff, so we'll definitely, they give us direction as well with our administration. So it's good that he's here listening. Taylor, everyone on the board is making their comments. Looks like you want to treat the personnel right, and we want to do that as well. It's good. Red is listening, so I think this is great. And moving forward, just because it's not in this budget, let's say we move forward to make them, get them the benefits that they need. I mean, we could always make that happen with city council approval.
Jen, what is your sense on how much greater? We're allocating, it's proposed $193,000. How much more? I mean, give us a ballpark here.
I believe there's like city specific line items on different employees and rates. So I think they'd have to go up to 18 an hour. Is that right for the assistant level of the city employee?
To be more substantial and get
to match what other at that similar job.
Greater performance out of your staff. Okay, so.
And Aaron,
Yes.
I have a comment. And as everybody knows, in a budget, if you want to put more money one place, you got to take it out of somewhere else. And as we move forward, we've got to, if indeed we want to go forward with that recommendation or whatever form it takes, we've got to be looking at that. So are we willing, do we want to go less on some of our advertising, et cetera? I just want to make that point that you don't just give them more money. It's got to come from somewhere.
No, absolutely. So if we're talking, say, $3 an hour, we know $3.50 an hour greater, it's going to cost probably about $5.25 to give that additional wages. We're probably talking $10,000, $15,000 a year additional to this. I'm just kind of trying to get us on board here. Are we 50 grand short or 10 grand short to cover the spread?
I've got a question.
Does it seem like I'm in the right direction here?
Yes, I believe it is.
I've got a question on 4110. The 70 to 83,220, is that specifically for you, Jen? Is that like a 19% raise?
I'm not at 70 right now.
Well, I'm just looking at the 2018 level of 4110 being at 83,220.
Right. So again, there's a line item for each job in the city, and there's steps, and they're just preset steps. So I think that's accounting for that next step. It hasn't been given to me. We'll see. but yeah.
So you're still not even at the amended budget amount?
No, I'm not. I think I'm at about 74 for the year.
So you're over the amended budget amount?
Correct.
Okay.
And then on 4910, the 55,571, those benefits, are they solely yours as the only city employee?
Yes.
So it's going from the under budgeted 26 to what you currently have at 31 up to 55, correct?
And remember when actuals, they didn't know Jen existed when this was put in before Jen came. So this is, that 26 there was just a number, and Jen came in, and so we just had to make sure that she received what she needed to receive.
Out of respect for staff in this, at the SLOCAL level, when we discuss direct benefits to staff, we go into closed session, frankly. So I realize here that it becomes kind of apparent, and I want to respect Jen in that process, because this is getting intimate right now.
Public record, man. Public record.
I agree.
Right. Yeah.
Let's move on.
So let's move past this right now. Our consensus as a board is we'd recommend to City Council that it sounds like we need $10,000, $15,000 more-ish ballpark towards wages, but we need to pull out a calculator and do this, and this would be more appropriate as a closed session. Agreed? I'm not in love with my financials being scattered all across television.
No, and also we would need to look at where does that money come from.
Precisely. What do we trim off of things? Now, I think that we're talking a very, very microscopic percentage out of our overall TBID budget, so I imagine as a board we'd all be behind shifting a couple pennies around to make this happen. I'm getting a lot of nods of yes down there. Okay, so moving past this, we'll circle back around and we'll create an item at the end. But let's move on to consulting services.
Okay, going down to consulting services. So, Again, reorganizing, we moved 26.5 into that line item, and that is our freelance designer that does our passports and does visitors guides and different things like that. We use him outside of the contract from Mental Marketing just because his rate is much lower for these one-off projects. Moby Manage is the website company that they house and they do our website, so we have money in there for them. Pacific Leisure, that's our contract for SEO. And then the one billboard, the reason why that's in there is that is an individual person. It's not a corporate entity that we rent that space from on Highway 1, so it's kind of odd that it's in there, but that's why it's there. Going into contract services, this is the Mental Marketing contract, and this is mainly their fees. And I broke them down into just roughly what they're running this year. So they've got $15,000 towards strategic planning, which is the marketing plan for this next year. $36,000 is in account management, and $28,000 is in coordination. And then they do the creative services portion of it, which is all the small ads that they run on our digital mediums, is $24,000. They also have the social media planning. They've got Travis Ford under contract to do all the social media, the execution and reporting of that. Runs $60,000, plus the public relations, outreach and reporting, which you guys have seen all the great PR that they do on a monthly basis. So that's just the big nutshell. The only item that is not included in there, which is not a really flat fee, is they're paid a percentage on placed media. They're paid a 15% commission on any placed media. But these are their flat fees that they get for monthly managing our contract. You guys have any question on that?
Yeah, what does that mean? They get a 15% on placed media. What is placed media?
So if you run an ad, let's say in a newspaper, and it's a $10,000 ad, any agency, this is standard across the industry, that they are paid a up to 15% fee for managing that placement.
For designing it?
Not design, it's strictly for the ad buy. So they're buying radio time. It's very standard in the industry, and it's actually written in their contract, Maggie.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Jennifer, I had a quick question. What's 5201 amended 4,400?
Well, we have nothing in there this coming year, but it was just some, again, odd amounts that got placed in the wrong categories before we had our transfer from the new city treasurer. So there's just some odd things that you'll see like that, but they're pretty small dollars. No more questions? I'll go down to 6107. That is the paid media. So this number has gone up quite a bit from what was projected to where we are. And to me, this is what it's about. We need to put money into paid media. This is all of our digital ad components, any print ads that we have. There's some other print ads that you'll see in a different category, but these are the items that are managed through Mental Marketing. The old budget, the way it was set up, was kind of odd. There was a group of digital ad buys that went through Mental Marketing, and then the Bureau handed a whole separate category through themselves. I'm not sure why that was, but we're trying to keep it very organized and let them manage that, which makes better sense because then they can use their ad dollars stronger if you are combining ads when you're placing digital media. So that's what that $245,000 is.
If I understand, so 6106 is really money for the work done by Mental Marketing, more or less paying the people, and then what they're executing when we're buying ads is what 6107 is. That's kind of split out.
That's correct.
Payment for salaries per se in 6107.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Perfect.
The one big thing that is in the 6106 is the public relations, the 60,000. That is where you do see quite a bit of value because you're getting all that, and that's the packet that you guys get each month that shows what we got for free advertising, and that's a really strong part of their contract that they do. So 6108, marketing consulting, you'll see there's just a nut that's sitting there of $39,000. I have that just allocated and set aside for if we bring vacation rentals and RV parks into this process next year, I needed to allocate some funds. So if that ends up rolling past 2018, I'll use that money probably in paid media, but for now I'm just storing it there.
And a question, this wouldn't be if, we've discussed the event coordinator, trying to bring them in, that would not be monies that could be allocated there on an as-needed basis.
It could, and that's part of the grant process that we're doing, Maggie. And
Okay.
my proposal on the event planner was not an employee; it was strictly one-off projects for events that need or feel they need an event planner.
Right.
Right.
But that category to me seems kind of fitting
Absolutely.
as a marketing
Absolutely.
consulting. So, okay.
6114 is our grant funds, and this year we had 60,000 allocated from the general funds that moved over, and this next year we have 90,000 that we're putting into that, which is pretty great that it's growing. And just comment on that, we did have our grants close on Monday. Last year I had 13 applications. This year I have 21 applications. So it is growing. I think we have some really exciting new things that are being proposed. So we'll see. I'm kind of excited to show them to you guys next month. Any questions on that? No? 6118 promotional media. This is, so we're proposing 93,500 in this category. Again, this is just trying to better organize the budget compared to how it was before. We put in video services. This is one of the components that Metal Marketing was really pushing for this year that we didn't have the budget for, which is getting out and doing some short videos on Morro Bay, and they're getting a lot more traction on social media and on digital media than just print ads. So we've got that in there for 20,000, which would be really great. We do have the component for the Slow Jazz Festival at 60,000 if that's approved. If not, that money would be used in other advertising mediums. So again, this is not necessarily what it's going to be used for. I'm just showing you kind of what I'm planning on putting in these categories. Activity passports this last year, they went really well, and so we have 3 of those in there again, plus the visitor's guide, which is one annual printing of $9,000.
And on the visitor's guide, so we can't cover that full nut with the advertising dollars in there. We still have to augment that.
It's highly possible we will this next year.
Okay.
So this year, we went through a big change with the format, and I didn't have as much ad pickup as I would like, and I think part of that is the way the old format was. There was a lot of free space that was set aside for the campgrounds and restaurant and retail, so they had no incentive to advertise in the book.
Yeah.
So hopefully, when they see the book this year, they'll want to step up and advertise in it next year.
Okay.
Visiting journalists, so that big number, just, I don't know what to tell you about it. That was, again, the budget was just really confused when we first took it over. But for this next year, $25,000, it runs us about $1,000 per visiting journalist. That includes their hotel room. We try to get them here for 2 nights, plus food and usually wine and some activities. So $1,000 is a good round number to kind of hold for each one, and that gives me opportunity for 5 visiting journalists coming in, which is about, right now, I think we have 21 for the year. And then I think we'll have a couple more coming in here pretty soon. So you guys like that? I see great value in that.
Yeah, I do too. But clearly, based on the old numbers, that's just where all the money, that just all got lumped into there, right, under the independent. Okay.
Unfortunately. So going down to some of these trade show things, they're fairly self-explanatory. There's space rent at $9,000. That is... this year we're doing IPW, which is part of SlowCal. We pay a percentage into that booth. We did ABA, and there was also 3 retail shows that were pre-planned that we did, which I'm not recommending this next year. So that number has lowered to $9,000. The transportation to get to those, it is what it is. You got to get a flight out of San Luis somehow. So I have $24.25 in that line. And then the next line, 6124, the $50,000 for co-op and advertising promotions. So that's, during the year, we have all sorts of opportunities that come up from SlowCal or Central Coast Tourism Council or even Visit California, where they ask us to co-op. And we've done quite a few of these. So that number is, it's hard to know exactly what they're going to, it's not like a pre-planned thing. They just get opportunities through the year. So this year we're in the Alaska Airlines magazine, which is a good thing. We're on the map for the Central Coast Tourism Council, and then we did the Matador video, which was part of SlowCal. So those are all co-op opportunities from them. Good? So far this is going easy. Professional development, we have $1,500 in there. That would be for the board if any of you want to come. Like I've invited you to the Tourism Council and those things. That's where that money would come out of. Next line, $61.99. That is our standing contract for Jackrabbit. It's running about $1,400 a month, so that's in there. Postage is coming down. We're doing a lot more not as much postage, a lot more visitors guide through just digital uploads. So that number I've gotten lower, and I'm very comfortable with that number. Utilities, that's a percentage for the building that we pay with Chamber. Workers' comp, unemployment insurance, and then the next one is 6510. That is the different conferences that we go to with the groups that we belong to. That's the California Outlook, Central Coast Tourism. We do a yearly planning session with them, the annual stakeholders meeting that we had last month, and any sort of focus groups would come out of there as well. Good. Mileage reimbursement. We do have use of city cars, which I try to encourage the girls to use if they have the opportunity, which don't cost us anything. I like that. Meals and lodging, that would go to the trade shows as well. Travel expense, again, that would be trade show, travel expense. And then the memberships, the $3,500 for the memberships seems kind of high to me. What I didn't realize at the beginning of the year was that for us to show at ABA, we have to also buy a membership. And same with National Bus Association. They all want their membership fees on top of just coming to their event. So that's a lot of what those fees are.
And quick question about the meals and lodging and travel expense. If we're cutting from 3 down to 1 next year, was that my understanding for
No.
Convention attendance?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't explain that well. So we had retail conferences, which you'd go and stand at a show and pitch Morro Bay to individual people. We're not doing those consumer shows. And then we had travel trade, which is what we're focusing on this year, which is going to like American Bus Association, and that's all tour groups bringing buses here. Much better use of our dollars than individual people. And the individual shows that were done last year were Bakersfield, Fresno. I mean, they already come. We don't need to. It's just not money that's well spent. Anybody else? Next. So the 8410 transfer in, that's the assumption of extra money that will be at the end of the year, my budget that will just roll to the next year. And we're going to put that in as just a hold for emergency funds. There is a $15,000 contingency fund this year, but for whatever reason it was given to mental marketing in their budget, which I will not do this year. So that is why you're seeing it here and you didn't see it this last year. And then the transfers out, 8501, that's $22,907. That's for CAP and IT. I'll let Connie maybe explain what that is. Yep. Or yeah.
What is CAP and IT at $22,907?
So each fund pays for our IT department and for the needs. So Jennifer's printers go out every day. Our IT person is there pretty much every day. Her computers are not working pretty much every day. So our IT guy is over there every day. So this is just every day throughout the year. Not only personnel of our IT person, but we have Office 365 licensure. We have a lot of software and licenses that all the departments are paying into, and this is part of that in IT.
So if we're paying out for that IT, is it possible to then get reimbursed for accounts payable work by TBID staff?
So all departments are doing AP stuff as well. So it's just part of what happens here in Morro Bay.
So that you were describing the IT, correct? What's the CAP stand for?
Good question, Taylor. That's the cost allocation plan. Cost allocation plan, what that is a 2% fee that all departments pay. And what that pays into is certain things such as now I know there's a resolution which Jen and I wasn't here for.
IT, right here.
Yeah. So what the cost allocation plan pays for is a lot of the overhead that supports TBID, which is not included. Things such as HR, attorney cost, administration. Lori's time being here as well, taking notes.
So the CAP. Okay, so when the resolution was done, the city was going to cover the legal and accounting. That was part of the resolution, correct?
Charlie has it.
So the CAP, that's not. I just feel like I'm trying to figure out. I want to know, is the CAP us paying for accounting and legal services?
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to be paying for accounting and legal services according to the resolution agreement we made. So if that's true, I just possibly saved us $20,000, which would cover the cost of those employees getting the increase they should get.
Taylor, that's a good point. This is something that...
Have we been getting charged this before? I mean, we had a deal.
Well, we never hit, this would have been the first.
So we haven't been charged this before?
You haven't been charged yet.
So $20,000 we might not be on the hook for because we have a deal that's written in paper. I mean, there's words written down a document that was an agreement that says we won't be paying legal and accounting because the city took that on when we changed over to the new form.
Taylor, I want to let you know that you have a great point.
I know.
We're going to doesn't happen all the time, but it happened right now. So we're going to look into that because we want to make sure we follow the resolution. Jen, myself, our finance director was not here at that time when that resolution is made. We want to make sure that we're following the resolution that was approved. So we'll look into it.
So just to make clear, that's going to be just like the employee thing. That will be something that is brought to council for them to discuss because I definitely don't want us to be paying money that we're not supposed to with assessment dollars from our hoteliers.
Could not have said it better myself, Taylor. Thank you, and thank you, Ikani, for answering those questions for us. But yeah, I think we all agree. Resolution was made and signed by council, and those are explicitly costs that they're going to be covering. Well said. I think we may have just found $22,000. We can push that, hopefully within the budget, towards compensating staff greater, and hopefully not have any overall net change in our operating ability. Moving past that. In the budget?
Yeah.
Maggie?
I'm trying to figure out how to state this. So when I look at the big nut that goes to promotions, between the middle marketing work and then the paid advertising and all that, the two that, as you brought out, Jennifer, in your discussion, adds up to $400 plus $1,000. I deal with this in my own business too. How do we measure the effectiveness? I mean, they're spending a lot of their time. We're paying them a lot of money. They're pushing out 1 million digital ads, and we see it every month, and it's very impressive. But how, to me, the pure measurement of that is seeing increase in room bookings. And I totally subscribe to the concept that we need to kind of be on a 5-year plan. You've just taken this over. We've brought on this new marketing group. But so I really don't have any basis for challenging the budget this year and that big nut that goes to them. But going forward, I think we really have to look at this, because I've worked in corporate America. Marketing can eat up. They'll take all the money you'll give them and more, and they can spend every bit of it. But we've got to get to the point that we can measure that effectiveness. So I don't have any. It's just a statement I have, is that I look at that as a huge nut, and also would be very interested to know, see a comparison of the allocate, like if you take a Pismo Beach or something and see, I don't know if they use mental marketing or someone else, but I'd love to see a comparison of what other cities spend on their marketing budget and see, do you have a feel for that, Jennifer or Ikani, as far as are we comparable in the percentage of our budget that's going to our marketing group?
We are comparable, but we are lower budget than a Pismo. They probably have almost double the money that we do in their budget. Yeah. Just by their rooms and their TOT, just naturally. The mental marketing is a 3-year contract, and of course it was signed before Ikani and I were both here, and it was signed at a 15% commission. That is something that I would look at renegotiating. It should be closer to 11.5%, 12%. And those little percentages do add up. So unfortunately, that is what it was signed at, though.
Oh, when does that term end?
We're just in our first year, Sean. But they do, when we get our reports, and I know we're not going to go through it today, but we do audit them and how effective they're being. When you look at, like the passports, for instance, what type of return we're getting on those, that's how we value their dollars, that they're spending for us.
Any more questions on the budget board? I know you were getting effectively towards summarizing our net and so forth, Jen.
Yep. I think that's all. I think we have a little work we need to go back and make some adjustments and see if we can make some changes for you guys. Okay?
Okay.
I know that City Council is in the middle of doing budget reviews, and they're trying to get them approved by June. Is that right, Ikani? So this is perfect timing. 1st of June approval.
Just a couple weeks.
Yep.
All right. Board, is there any further questions? Is there any public comment? All right. Seeing no public comment, I think as a board, our recommendation, we made it clear, but just to kind of formalize the process overall, we seem to be relatively placated with a budget. However, we would like to see more allocated to personnel at the guidance of our Director of Tourism. And we also feel that per the resolution signed 16, 18 months ago, that the cap in the IT of $22,000 is something that TBID should not be covering. Thank you. Excuse me, just the cap. Well, still there's 20 grand.
Well, we'll look at the resolution.
Let's look at the resolution. Those just need to line up. I don't have it memorized, but it possibly could cover IT. I want to say it was full city support for us.
Yeah, if it says that, we'll...
And Mayor Irons signed it too.
Thank you.
All right, we'll close that session. We've already done the 4th of July. Slow Jazz concert series, and then we have the marketing. I think we will skip the marketing and public relations because that'll definitely take us over time. Board, I think we can get the Slow Jazz done here in 15 minutes and adjourn at 11. Yes? Okay, let's move forward. Item number 7, Slow Jazz Fall Concert Series. Jen put together a nice staff report for us, as did the staff from Slow Jazz. So let's have a discussion and a recommendation. How do we want to move forward? Jen, go ahead.
Sure. So we've already talked about this several times, and this is just coming back to you now. We did allocate it into the budget to do a 4-concert series, and I'm looking to have a good discussion with all of you and hear where your head is. This is September-October event, which I'm very strong for. It is a lot of money, so that's kind of the discussion that I wanted to have with you. This is really a 5-year long-term adventure with them. This is not going to be our first year and see a huge hotel increase. I think they're expecting roughly $300 per concert this first series. So if And, I knew we were going to talk about the fireworks as well, which is another big expense. So I didn't know where your heads sat on this, if you wanted to sponsor the 4 concerts, or if you want to do 1 or 2 and see how they go this year. So I'm just opening it up to all of you to talk through, and I'd love to hear what all your opinions are on it. I would love to see it happen for 4 weeks in September and October.
My initial take is we are supposed to focus on heads and beds, but I think as the board has all recognized, if there's nothing to do, it's harder to get guests here. I find this event appealing because of the off-season nature of it. We definitely experience this is shoulder and even off-season with some of the guests. It will clearly be a loss the first couple of years. We know this would be an incubator. So what is our thoughts then on losing money for a couple of years to hopefully establish a good event that'll help to kind of brand our region? Thoughts, board?
One thought I had was, again, trying to drive overnight stays would be to try to schedule it, and I don't know how much control we would have over the dates. I'm sure it has to do with their availability, but to try and schedule it in conjunction with other things that might be happening where people would want to come for, I hate to even suggest, but maybe the Harbor Festival, and then get them to stay over Saturday night and then do the concert on Sunday evening, or vice versa. Something that would be my only thing, is if we're really, again, back to trying to drive heads and beds, to try to schedule them in such a way where there's correlating events that would keep them here. Because I could see this very easily becoming a very popular thing with locals, which is cool. That's great. But again, with our purpose being to try to get more people here, I think we would drive that better. So.
My thought on it, Maggie, was to not do the Harbor Festival weekend, do the 2 weekends before and the 2 weekends after, when our weather's still really strong and they can be outside for a concert. And then my commitment to all of you is I'm really going to work hard with our local live groups, the Siren, Auto Rock, and try to get them to book some really strong bands Friday night, so we can go out and sell this as a music weekend and do Friday, Saturdays in our shoulder season. I think is a pretty strong way to do it, and just we would have to bypass Harbor Festival weekend because Gio has his thing in his yard that he's not willing to give up. So, but he's offering, the use of his facility at no cost to us. So, it's a great opportunity for us to start this adventure.
And we're talking about a Friday and Saturday night for this, or just a big Friday night, big Saturday night, one or the other?
Saturday night would be slow jazz. So What I want to do is work with the Siren and Auto Rock and the local people here and try to get them to book something Friday. So I can go out and promote, Friday, Saturday night for these concerts, a concert series.
Do you have thoughts on ways to really direct the heads and beds as part of this, how to dovetail these together?
So Slow Jazz has a really strong database that they use that is their strong market, and I would use a lot of that to drive.
Okay.
Two comments. As someone who lives right near Siren, the clientele that comes to a big band booking at Siren is almost mutually exclusive with jazz. So I'm not sure. A partnership would be great if you could get the same type of music, especially if we could expand this to like something that's a little bit more fringe jazz and maybe a little bit more mainstream. Because I don't know if we can fill 4 concerts of jazz in Morro Bay. The other thing that I bring up every time this is talked about, it's freezing from 6 to 8:30 almost every day. It just is. I'm out there every day. Just think of the people playing out at Dockside outside. It's great from 11 to 3 maybe on a really nice day. It's just freezing from 6 to 8:30, and I just don't see people sitting out and listening to jazz during those hours. And so that's. I don't know how to necessarily address that with Giovanni's, but it's just something food for thought.
I was going to say, though, that during those months, that's our Indian summertime, right? I'm dying of sweat, and my plants are dying of thirst during that time of the year. So I know that it cools off a lot in the afternoon, but at any time of the year, that's the time of the year that it would be the warmest from my point of view.
jump on that.
Jen, I know you already briefly went over this, but just to clarify, if you're proposing 4 concerts and $11,500 per concert, we're talking about almost $50,000. Is that right?
Correct. The fee to have them in is $10,800, and I've put a $1,000 window in there. And none of this has gone to contract or anything, so there's still negotiations to be done. But he's hoping to get some large sponsors, and if he can get those, there's some other fees that normally the host would cover, like chairs, heaters, things like that. So I've put a $1,000 window in there in case he does not get the large sponsors for those things that we would have to pick up.
So are we looking at picking up 90% of this tab then, effectively?
So he charges the same amount into any city, just so you know. It's $10,800 for any concert. This is a whole series he does. Actually, it's like almost a 3-month series, and he does it in every town. Morro Bay for 4 weeks is very different. He usually goes to like one host hotel or up in Paso Robles or down in Pismo Beach. He's got a whole series set up. So it's different for us because we're asking for multiple weeks.
I mean, frankly, I love the idea, but it is a substantial bill here. We're talking close to $50,000 to make this happen, and it'd definitely be a loss the first couple of years.
Absolutely. So again, if we want to try 2 weeks and then see how we feel about it, we can do that.
How did we come up with a 4-concert plan if he typically does 1 or 2?
I was trying to just own the market during those good weeks. So mid-September, mid-October, it's still really strong. Like Taylor said, it's when our weather is beautiful. So it's really the only time of year I can see people sitting out there on the dock and enjoying the weather.
And Jennifer, would this, again, back to a budget standpoint, where would this money come from? Would that be coming out of our $90,000 event budget? Or?
No, this is not. They are not putting in for a grant. This would be a sponsorship.
Okay.
And I have them, let's see, where do I have them? Right now they are in 6118, which is promotions media. You see it says 60,000 Slow Jazz Festival Partnership.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's the hold I have for them right now.
I guess my follow-up comment, we're still pretty busy in September, and it's a large dollar amount to spend without knowing what the results would be. It sounds like 2 events might be more appropriate, and then gauge the results of that.
I think it would be good to pinch in Harbor Festival on each weekend. I understand the concept, and I've met with Scott, and he wanted to do it at the inn, and we just weren't the appropriate venue for him. But in a first-year event, a growing event, he does have a great database that he can hit. And just to make even one concert here to hit his huge database and say, come to Morro Bay, I think would be a real good thing. But it is an unknown, and it will be a loss. And you're right; it's probably the best weather that we have. So we're fairly busy already. But if I was to make a motion, it would be to reduce it to 2 and pinch Harbor Festival on each side. That's my motion.
I was going to follow up for the month of September on the events. I know that on my calendar we're still really booked. We got avocado. I mean, we don't, but on the calendar is Avocado Margarita Festival, Beaverstock, Avila, Best Buddies up at Hearst, and then October it starts slowing down a little bit. So for me, I like this a lot. I think it would be smarter to push it towards the October end of things versus September because, on a personal note, I wouldn't be able to go in September.
So Taylor, check your calendar, and the weekend that works for you, just email Jen.
I'm fine that you can't go because you won't be staying in a hotel room, so that's okay.
And I would be fine to amend my motion to be only in October. The first 2 weekends in October wouldn't hurt me either.
So that could be like the 7th and the 14th, those Saturdays.
I'm hearing some thoughts here. I'm hearing a motion for 2 as opposed to 4. I'm hearing a possible advocacy to move it into October, but I don't think we want to just abruptly pick those dates. I think we should intelligently check the calendar countywide. SlowCal is a great resource, and just make sure we're not overlapping on any events.
And it'll also depend if he's already booked people on those, to be honest. So
right.
Yeah.
So that was an amended motion. Charlie, do you agree with that amended motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so then we would need a second on that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Awesome.
Okay. 2 weeks of jazz coming up. Sounds fun. All right. In interest of time and the fact that we all have other responsibilities today, we are going to pass on the last item, which is number 8, the April 2017 Marketing and Public Relations Update. We'll cover that in our next session, as well as we'll have 2 months of previous meeting minutes that we'll go over. Last item then, do we have any declaration of future items? No declarations? Announcements?
I was just going to make one comment on the marketing PR plan. I probably will not go over it next month because I'll have next month's.
Oh,
so
sure.
you can review it on your own. If you have questions, call me anytime or email me. I'd be glad to go through it with you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
I
Outstanding.
have one more comment. I just want to thank SoCal and, again, the City of Morro Bay and the tourism and Connie and Jen for putting on the greatest Amgen finish that I've ever been to, and I've been to many. It was very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing Connie's YouTube video.
Excellent. All right. And actually, I will probably not be here at next month's staff meeting, or excuse me, our board meeting. My daughter is going to be born probably toward June 9th, June 10th, so I will be extremely sleep deprived. Bring a five-day-old in here? Yeah, not a good idea, Charlie. All right. So we will call this meeting adjourned, barring no further public comment. Excuse me. Nothing? All right. 10:55. I think this is the earliest we've ever adjourned. Outstanding. Thank you all.